We've learned adjectives. We've learned how to compare adjectives. But in today's lesson, we are going to practice how to compare nouns. This is an intermediate grammar lesson which will make you much more fluent. So, let's go. If you've watched all of my English videos, you know that we have done a few lessons where we compare adjectives. We've learned how to use bigger and smaller and as. But in today's lesson, we are going to focus on comparing only nouns. This is an intermediate grammar lesson, but it's not that difficult. So even if you are a beginner, you can easily understand and use today's grammar. We will be using as. We will also be focusing on countable and uncountable nouns. All right, so let's jump right into it. In today's lesson, we are going to be using the words as. Now, if we use as just like that, it means that two things are equal. All right, so again, if we use only as, that means two things are equal. But in today's lesson, we want to compare two things, and we want to say that they are not equal. So in today's lesson, we will always put the word not. Okay, so we will have not as. In today's lesson, we will be using the have verb. Now, there are many verbs you can use to compare nouns, but in today's lesson, today's video, we will only use the have verb. Okay, so it won't be that difficult. Now, also today, we will have two sentence patterns. One will be a sentence that we use for a countable noun. A countable noun means it's any person, place, or thing that I can count. So I want you to imagine you have something in your hand. If you look at it and you can count, that means it's a countable noun. So for a countable noun, our sentence pattern will be subject, not have, as many, countable noun, as second subject. Now, if you want to compare using an uncountable noun is any noun that you can't count. If you kind of imagine it's in your hand and you can't count it. For example, water. If there's water in my hand, I can't count it. That's an uncountable noun. In that situation, please use the following sentence pattern. We will have subject, not have, as much, uncountable noun, as second subject. So, for a countable noun, we are using many. For an uncountable noun, we are using much. Please remember that. Now, to better challenge yourself, to better get warmed up for this lesson, let's practice a countable and uncountable challenge. Next thing I will do is I will put 10 nouns on the screen. I want you to look at each noun and I want you to tell me if it's countable or uncountable. Now, you can speak it out loud or you can type it in the comment section. But please try this challenge. Tell me if the following 10 nouns are countable or uncountable. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is read the word and then tell me if it's countable or uncountable. Number 1, food. Is it countable or uncountable? Food is uncountable. Equipment. Is equipment countable or uncountable? Equipment is uncountable. 3, fish. Is it countable or uncountable? Fish is both countable and uncountable. When you are looking at fish in an aquarium or in the sea or in a lake, those fish, the animal itself, is countable. We can say 1, 2, 3, 4 fish. But if we're talking about the food, fish as a food, then fish is uncountable. Number 4, traffic. Is it countable or uncountable? Traffic is uncountable. Number 5, news. Is it countable or uncountable? News is uncountable. Okay, so that's the first 5. Did you get them all right? All right, I hope so, but let's continue. Let's do 6 through 10 now. Number 6, health. Is it countable or uncountable? Health is uncountable. Number 7, money. Countable or uncountable? Money is uncountable. Number 8, job. Is it countable or uncountable? Job is countable. Number 9, baggage. Is it countable or uncountable? Baggage is uncountable. Number 10, suitcase. Is it countable or uncountable? Suitcase is countable. Okay, so how did you do? Did you get all 10 of those right? Some of them are a little bit tricky. Like I said, fish can be both countable and uncountable. Fish as an animal is countable. Fish as food, it is uncountable. We also had baggage and suitcase. They are very similar words, similar meaning. But baggage is uncountable. Suitcase is countable. Now, if this was a little bit difficult, that's okay. You can re-watch this part of the lesson and try again. Also, if you have any questions about this lesson so far, please leave your questions in the comment section. Also, if you are not a subscriber and you think this lesson or these types of lessons will help your English, then subscribe to the channel. give me a thumbs up and hit that notification bell. I do a lot of free live English lessons. I usually do them about 3 days a week. So, hitting the notification bell, being a subscriber, you can find out when I do those lessons and you can join me and study in real time. Okay, so the active part of the lesson is coming up next. But before we do the active part, let's look at 2 example sentences where we compare nouns. In the first example sentence, we will use a countable noun. So we are going to compare myself and my friend Mike. All right, so I and my friend Mike. And we are going to use the countable noun shoes. Shoes. Now, in this situation, my friend Mike has many shoes. Maybe 100 pairs of shoes. I only have about 20 pairs of shoes. Mike has more. So we want to compare myself and Mike using shoes. To make this sentence, we have 2 subjects. Myself, I, and Mike. Mike has more shoes. So, when I make the sentence, the person who has the more of that noun, so in this case, more shoes, that person, that subject, goes at the end of the sentence. The subject with less of the noun, so less shoes, goes at the beginning. I have less shoes. So my sentence will be, I don't have as many shoes as Mike. Okay, one more time. I don't have as many shoes as Mike. Now, let's look at our second example. In the second example, again, we have 2 people. We have a girl and a boy. A girl and a boy. Now, in this situation, we will compare an uncountable noun. We will compare ice cream. Ice cream. So, in this situation, the girl, she has 2 scoops of ice cream. The boy, he has 1 scoop of ice cream. So, she has more ice cream. So, the subject of she will come at the end of the sentence. The boy will come at the beginning of the sentence. So, my example sentence will be, the boy doesn't have as much ice cream as the girl. One more time. The boy doesn't have as much ice cream as the girl. So here, our noun is uncountable. It says as much ice cream as. Okay, so do you understand how to make these sentences? Because now is your chance to make sentences. This is the active part of the lesson. In this part of the lesson, it is your chance to make sentences comparing nouns. We will use countable nouns and uncountable nouns. First, I will do an example with you. After we do the example, you will have 5 chances to make sentences. During this section, I will give you 2 subjects. For example, we have a city versus a countryside. Then I will show you a picture or a word. So for our example, we have the picture and it is noise. Noise. So I must compare a city and a countryside using the noun noise. So my example sentence, my answer for this situation is: a countryside doesn't have as much noise as a city. All right, one more time. A countryside doesn't have as much noise as a city. Noise is uncountable, so I must use as much. Okay, so that was the example sentence. Next, it is your turn. Please answer the next 5 situations and make a sentence comparing either a countable or uncountable noun. Number 1, we have a town versus a city. Please look at the picture or the word and make a sentence comparing a town and a city. Okay, so for this situation, I am going to use the noun traffic. Traffic. So my answer for this situation is: a town doesn't have as much traffic as a city. Traffic is uncountable. Number two, we will compare Japanese food versus French food. Please look at the picture and make a sentence comparing Japanese food and French food. All right, so for me, this picture is butter. Butter. So my answer for this is: Japanese food doesn't have as much butter as French food. Now remember, at the beginning of the lesson, I said we could use other verbs. Today, we are only using have. But if you wanted to use another verb, that is okay. For example, for this situation, I could say Japanese food doesn't use as much butter as French food. That would be okay. But today, we will focus on have. Number 3, we are going to compare a theater versus a stadium. Please look at the screen and use this to compare those 2 subjects. What is your answer? For this, I will be using the noun seats. Seats. So my answer is: A theater doesn't have as many seats as a stadium. Okay, number 4 and number 5 will be a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to give you a noun. I'm not going to give you a picture. That means you must think of your own noun. Okay, think of your own noun that you want to use to compare. All right, number 4, we have coffee versus tea. Coffee versus tea. Please think of a noun and compare coffee and tea. Okay, my answer for this is tea doesn't have as much caffeine as coffee. Tea doesn't have as much caffeine as coffee. I used the noun caffeine. Caffeine is uncountable. If you used a different noun, that's great. Please leave your answers in the comment section and I'll check to see if your sentence is correct. Number 5, last one. I want you to compare smartphone versus laptop. Smartphone versus laptop. Please think of your own noun to use to compare these two things. What is your sentence? Smartphone versus laptop. Okay, this one is probably difficult. My answer for this is a laptop doesn't have as much portability as a smartphone. I am using the noun portability. So a laptop doesn't have as much portability as a smartphone. Now again, if you have a different sentence, leave it in the comment section for me to check. When we compare nouns, it's very important that we make sure we're using either a countable or uncountable noun, and we have to make sure that we separate them using either much or many. So remember, many is with countable, much is with uncountable. Now, if you liked today's lesson, if you think it was useful, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell. Also, if you want to have a more thorough lesson on comparing nouns, I have already done a live lesson. This is a live lesson where I did with some students. It's free. It's on YouTube. I've already done it. Go check out that video. You can have an hour, I believe it's like an hour or hour and a half lesson on comparing nouns. You'll have many more situations, a lot more chance to practice. So check out that video as well if you want more practice for comparing nouns. And like I said, I do a lot of live lessons. I'll be making a lot of videos and uploading that as well. So make sure you check out all of those. Until the next lesson, see ya. Thank you very much for watching today's lesson. Today we practice comparing nouns. If you think this lesson was useful for your English, please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell. Also, don't forget to join me during my free live English lessons 3 times a week. Until the next time, see ya.